talk a little bit about empathy. And empathy is actually a really interesting word. So when you think about it, we all kind of know what empathy is, but in the realm of business, you typically don't hear that word. I don't come out of meetings where someone says, that was just an unbelievably empathetic meeting. Usually we're talking about what's our market share, and what's the dollar trend, and where are we going. But the concept of empathy is really powerful when you think about marketing. And the reason for this is one thing. What it forces you to do as a marketer or as a business person is to stand in the shoes of whoever it is you're trying to better understand or target. And what it requires is a bit of a reframe, a bit of a shift, because we tend not to spend time doing that. But the idea here is when you understand your consumer in the context of their world, with the realm of their needs, their wants and desires, suddenly what it does for you is it starts to build a platform and a framework by which you begin to differentiate from your competitors. And the days of asking somebody really aren't that powerful anymore, because we know attitudes don't really mirror behaviors. And this starts to get at the heart of behaviors. And when you think about connections, you think about differentiation in a very complex world, it's a powerful reaction. So how do you become empathetic? Well, it's interesting. So as a marketer, I mentioned I was classically trained, we went kind of through this routine of things. But what was fascinating is we did it ourselves as marketers. Well, this is about a reframe. This is about how do you take perspectives of a number of different disciplines, be it marketing, be it sociology, be it psychology, whatever it might be, but how do you take those unique perspectives and how do you bring those together in a way that typically doesn't happen in the business world? So when we talk about becoming empathetic, that's really what we're talking about. It's about creating that perspective in a way, in this multidisciplinary, multi-method, mixed method way to bring it. So there's really 5 key skills when you think about creating an empathetic mindset. First is observing. So we run through life pretty fast, but next time you're in a Starbucks, which we know probably some German women, what is it? Buy your coffee and sit down and just watch people. Watch the way they pay for things. Watch the way that they line up. It becomes pretty amazing when you take a step back and observe for a moment. And you start to understand people in ways, even though you're not having an interaction with them. Listening is very, very powerful. We tend not to do this as humans. We're always thinking about what we're going to say. But spend some time truly listening to what someone says. And if you do that with your customer or your consumer, you start to understand things you've never seen before. And now with social media and social media listening, it's unbelievable. If you pull those pieces out, it becomes really powerful. Interacting, some good exercises today which you see about spending time in some form or shape of interaction with who you're targeting. And what you'll do is you'll learn things about them in ways, again, that you hadn't typically thought of, or if you just ask them in a focus group setting. So you're going to learn a whole different thing. Co-creating is actually how do you start to produce things together with them. How do you do that? It's amazing for some of the work we do. We actually build solutions together with our consumers. That really was never heard of in the past, or at least from a classically trained marketing perspective. We'd write concepts and we'd show them, and then we'd go build it and we put it on a shelf somewhere. And then communicate. Sorry, you could say something.
I was just going to say this is also just in the context of very complex ecosystems, and particularly around healthcare, where there are tons and tons of regulations and lots of stakeholders. The co-creating piece becomes extremely important.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And I have to tell you, these ecosystems, no matter what business you're in, are just getting that much more complex. And we tend to, in the past, to focus on one stakeholder. When you actually focus on this broad ecosystem and multiple stakeholders, that's when it becomes really, really powerful. So good point, Christine. And then communicating is really all about the storytelling. How do you tell the story of your brand, but more importantly, how do you understand the stories of your customers? How do you bring those to life? How does that reframe or position you in a way perhaps that's different than you